I'm Karl Tomusk, reporter at Placetech. Joining me today is Justin Harley, regional director at Yardi, to discuss tech and the residential sector, specifically looking at what Yardi's doing in the space. Welcome, Justin.
Hi, Karl. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Justin, Yardi does a lot in a lot of different sectors, but today we're looking at Resi specifically. So what does Yardi do to support the residential real estate industry?
So what Yardi does in UK and Europe is we help build-to-rent businesses and the investors in build-to-rent and purpose-built student accommodation to provide the systems that help them manage both the businesses from an operational viewpoint, and that's everything from the lease-up process through to the day-to-day property management, facilities management, but also things like investor management. So, reporting back to the investors in terms of the performance is absolutely critical. People live off data. So what Yardi does, it becomes the tool to kind of run the buildings and also provide the insights and data for them to make better decisions about the buildings, and also investors to see if they're getting the returns that they thought they might get.
So how does what you offer differ between build to rent, between student housing and short-term rentals as well?
So the underlying technology is actually the same. So the underlying technology that we use is the same. The configuration naturally is quite different. So for example, within student accommodation, for example, invoices aren't typically you don't pay your rent every month, you work off academic terms. Also, and so that's quite a different kind of structure. The booking process is very different from a resident signing up online, for example. So with a student, you just want to book your place in Manchester or Leeds or wherever you're going to go, and know that you can secure that quickly, efficiently. And that's an important journey. The other area is, and a key difference is that within student, much of the kind of move in and move out activity and inspections of the physical units, they happen at the same time. So everything has to be on a mass basis, whereas in traditional build to rent or any kind of resi, there's a constant stream of move-ins, move-outs, renewals, for example, depending on the life cycle of a tenant. But in student, it's all it's wham bam, thank you, ma'am. It's fresh. It all happens at the same time, and that really needs to be slick and efficient.
How receptive has the industry been to adopting technology to make these things easier?
I think that the property industry traditionally has been slow to adopt technology. Our experience of student accommodation, it's a slightly different story. It has always adopted technology. So there's always been, technology at the heart of operating student accommodation. One of the learnings that we have in speaking to many student providers is that the technology often tends to be a little disjointed. So the volume of beds is often very large. So we're talking thousands of beds, and the technology has got to the stage where often there are so many APIs connecting into each other, it becomes almost unmanageable to manage all your APIs. So I think there's a realization there that a single source of truth is something that everyone aspires to get, but there may be smarter ways to go and do that. And and it's something that Yardi holds as a core belief, in terms of, one database. There might be different interfaces for different user types, but it's something that we really believe. And I think we've seen in student a real adoption of, hey, we can't be running 13, 14 systems. There's just no way our property managers can duck into one and then go to another interface and another. They just want one interface that gives them everything they need to know about the student. So that's a big shift, I think.
You're kind of alluding to this. You kind of alluded to this with that answer, but how does technology affect the actual users, the residents, and the journey they take?
Technology it doesn't exist on its own. It's a combination of people, process, and technology that creates great service. And technology impacts the resident journey all the way. It goes from the moment you're looking for an apartment or a student bed. From the moment you're looking, technology plays a role, from making it easy to find what you want, to find out more information about it and make choices, whether that be around pricing, floor plans, images, all of those tools, and making that seamless, and then making the kind of booking process or the leasing process as seamless as you possibly can. And that includes signing up for direct debits, signing your lease, all of that can be automated today. And again, I think, as a resident, I would expect that, because I want that to be as seamless as possible. So it has a massive impact on the resident journey.
So for landlords who haven't really jumped into the tech that they could, I suppose the key is to get the easy wins right, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think actually, often if I was to offer a landlord any advice about, approaching technology, is stand away from all the silo solutions and think about what you want overall as the goal, and what are the key touch points on that resident journey for you. And then how do you automate those, but at the same time, make sure your data is consistent and true. And I think that's the key, because ultimately, these schemes, whether they be purpose-built student accommodation schemes or BTR schemes, they're investor-led, and the investors, they want return. So they want to know it's performing how they had planned it would perform, that the returns that they are giving to to the fund is what they expect. So that data is critical, and investors now, and it's really interesting again, and I won't mention any names, investors now aren't just interested in the high level return. They want some of the granularity. They want some of the key KPIs about, where are inquiries coming from? What's happening in the market? How long's the average life of a resident or a tenant? You think of a student accommodation, one of the big challenges they have, if you invest all that money in marketing and you have a student for 1 or 2 years, really what student accommodation now is looking at is saying, well, how can we provide the next journey for when they become, they enter the workplace? So, I've heard it called things like micro-living, co-living could be another word for it. There's all sorts of terms, but actually it's really about the investor being able to keep the client and move them into another product, which, they keep the loyalty of that customer. So, so that's what I would say to any landlord, or and really any investor in the either sector, is, technology is so important, but it's really about the data. It's about the data, and make sure that make sure you don't get driven by lots of departments having their own little requirement. Have a strategy about your tech. Don't get, sales will be vocal, facilities will be vocal, marketing will be vocal, and they'll all want what they want, but actually you need it to work together.
So what's next for Yardi?
Well, I think next for Yardi is a couple of things that are happening in Yardi. So one, increasingly we're seeing an expansion of our operations across Europe. So not just UK and Ireland, so especially in student accommodation. Many of the investors are pan-European, so there's lots happening in that, in the European market, in countries like France. We've recently opened an office in Paris, Germany, Netherlands, Italy, Spain, really interesting markets right across Europe. So that's a key focus for us. And then secondly, in terms of the technology, and everyone's excited about technology, next for us will be, again, looking at tools that we can bring in to enhance resident experience, whether that be tools on the front end resident journeys, chatbots, artificial intelligence around, those chatbots, so that they can have a sensible conversation out of hours. And I think the other areas are around smart homes. I think that is something that, in the States, we've created, some smart home technology, and whether we bring that to the UK marketplace or we look to partner with people, I think that's the stuff that will be next off the rank for us.
Well, that's sounds like you'll be busy over the next few years.
Well, you're definitely right about that. And I think it's such an exciting, both those markets are so exciting. There is investment capital, continues to be aligned with residential. I think there's uncertainty around the commercial, the office. We all know about that. And I think over COVID, what certainly residential, especially BuildtoRent showed, is that rent collection was still around 96, 97%. So if I'm an investor, I'm looking at that thinking, hey, that's I mean, nothing's ever really 100% safe, but it's pretty good. The risk profile is attractive. So I think it will only grow. And the macroeconomics also say, house prices are up here. Young people can't afford to, they have to rent. So let's give them a fantastic renting experience. And I think that's what BuildtoRent is doing so well. I really do.
Thank you, Justin, for sharing your thoughts on all that. So to find out more, visit yardi.co.uk. Thank you.
Thank you, Karl.